housekeeping things in case you didn't read my chat. We are recording this session. So the recording of this session about surveys has started. Our goal today is really to talk about what makes a good survey, when and why would you use them, and then how do you set them up within your IQ office. You will get a copy of this webinar by the end of the day today. It will also be posted on our Facebook and our YouTube channel. The links are in that chat box. So if you want to go ahead, if you right click on those, you can open them in separate tabs on your browser so that you have them. That's also a really good place to look up information on how to do something, really quick, easy information. So without further ado, I do want to start with just a quick question to all of you. How many of you are using surveys in your business currently, whether they are showing surveys, are they surveys for client feedback on closings, are they open house feedback surveys? How many of you are using surveys, and what kind of surveys are you using? Perfect. So some of you are using surveys, some of you are not using surveys. Michelle, welcome to the industry. We're super excited to have new agents join the industry. There will be nothing more exciting, terrifying, and difficult and rewarding that you ever do. So let's talk about what makes a good survey. When you're making a survey and you're trying to get information out, the first part of a survey that you want to think about is writing questions that are simple and to the point. I think a lot of times in surveys we get caught up, and I know that all of us, and actually let's take just a show of hands. So if you've had this happen to you, say yes in that chat box, have gotten a survey emailed to you, and then you start to go through the survey and the question is so long and diluted that by the end of the question, you don't know what they're asking. So there is nothing more frustrating as a consumer, and we're all consumers, than getting a survey and not understanding A, what the question's asking, or B, having a question that is so long that you don't know what the point of it is. So when you're writing your questions for your survey, please make sure that they are to the point and they are simple questions. It does not need to be rocket science. The next thing we want to talk about is keeping your survey short. I'm sure that the answer is likely yes to this one as well, but because we would like this to be interactive, how many of you have gone to take an email survey and the survey takes up so much of your time, and by question 35, you're thinking to yourself, Lord, if I would have known this survey would have taken 20 minutes, I would not have started it at this time, but it said it was a quick survey. And so you exit out, you don't finish the survey, you get frustrated with that process, and I stopped answering surveys. Our utility company here is notorious for doing this, and I no longer even open the emails from them that have a survey. So to get good results, ask simple pointed questions and keep your survey short. I define short as 10 questions or less. If it's more than 10 questions, you need to think about the goal of your survey. The next thing we're going to talk about is keep your questions neutral. It is really easy to ask leading questions in a survey. You're looking for a certain answer, and so you lead the consumer into a specific answer. And generally where I see this is in either showing feedback surveys or in onboarding surveys. So you want to take a survey of someone after they've been onboarded to your company or they've been onboarded into your CRM, and you send an email out. So I would send an email out to Margaret perhaps, and it says, please describe your onboarding experience. Was it easy, enjoyable, fun, or educational? And there's no place in there for the consumer to give you feedback that isn't positive. And part of doing a survey is to receive honest feedback. So make sure when you're giving responses, especially if it's multiple choice, that you're giving the option for the consumer to make up their mind on what it was. Also, make questions optional to answer. If you have 10 questions on your survey and someone gets to question 3 and they don't have an answer or they don't feel like providing feedback, let them skip the question and go on to the next question. You're better off receiving 90% of a survey complete than 20% of a survey complete, because when people got to a question they didn't want to answer, they weren't able to skip it and they got frustrated. Have any of you ever done a survey where you did not want to answer a question, but you could not go on to the next page until you answered the question? We all live in a very busy world. They say now that humans have the same attention span as a goldfish. So that means that you have about 3 seconds to keep your client engaged. And if you're engaging your client, they say, oh, I don't want to answer this one, next. And they can't go to the next button. They don't fill it out. They typically hit the close. And then you lose the feedback on the rest of those questions. And the last thing we're going to talk about is proofing your survey. Please, please, please proofread your surveys and your content before you send it out. If you are not a good speller, which some of us aren't, I am a horrible speller. There are lots of apps out there for you to use. I use one called Grammarly that's just installed on my browser, and it catches all my spelling and grammar errors. It's free. If you do not want to install something on your computer, at least read it out loud to yourself. A lot of times just reading it out loud will help you catch the mistakes in your typing that you're making. So let's jump into how do you actually go and create these surveys? What kind of surveys can you create? Where can you attach those surveys, and how do you get that feedback? So I'm going to start sharing my screen with you. I am going to just scroll in a little bit so that it's bigger for you to see. And I'm going to make sure that I am clicking through slowly. So if I go through something too quickly, please let me know so that I can slow down and get to it. So when you're in your IQ office, you log in and you see a screen like this. If you go to marketing, there is a section called My Surveys. I do recognize a few names on the call today. Ooh, I'm going to just scroll out real quick. And so if you are an admin and you want to create surveys that are company-wide for your agents to use, you can go into admin, and then under manage content, there is a surveys button here for you. So they operate the same way, but if you want them to be company-wide, you go to admin under surveys. And for all the agents on the phone, we go into marketing and then to My Surveys. And so when you click on My Surveys, you can create a new survey here. So we're going to click that new survey button. And when we do that, the first page that we get talks about the survey information. What is the survey title? This is something that your clients are going to see. And so you would name something like open house feedback survey. I love using open house feedback surveys for a few reasons. One, if you are not the listing agent, you can use open house feedback surveys as a way to follow up with the contacts you met at the open house in a genuine way. Two, if you are the listing agent, you can get feedback for your client, the seller, And hopefully the feedback you're getting is honest, consumer-based feedback. Now, when I think about those two types of feedback, they're very different surveys. So let's just talk quickly and briefly about setting the intention of your survey when you make it. If I am not the listing agent and I want to get feedback from the consumers that came into the open house, the feedback that I want to receive is on how I, as the agent, did. Doesn't matter if they like the house, yes or no. It does a little bit, but my feedback and my purpose of being at that open house that's not my listing is to find clients that speak my language. And I don't mean that literally, I mean that figuratively. They're people that I would want as clients. I'm going to feel good about putting in my car, and that I am going to feel good about helping get into a home. And I also want to know if I did a good job promoting my open house. So that's one type of open house feedback survey that you would do as the non-listing agent. If I am writing this survey from the perspective of the listing agent, I want to get genuine feedback from the consumers on the home. Things like, did you feel like the price of the home was correct? Did you feel like the home was clean and presentable for an open house? Were the directions on the advertising or with signage easy to follow? Is this the type of home that you're looking for? You're getting feedback specific to the physical characteristics of the house versus the feedback on how you did as an agent sitting the house. Does that make sense to everybody? The two ways that you could really word that survey to do different things for you. Perfect. So as an admin, I also am going to think about what information I want to know about my agents. So if I'm an admin and I'm doing an open house survey, I want to know about that agent sitting. I want to know, were they friendly? Were they professional? Did they show up on time? I want to know that. And so you can create, you might have 3 or 4 different open house surveys, and one is listing agent open house survey. One is hosting agent open house survey. One is customer feedback open house survey, so that you can use these however you would like to really fit the business that you're doing. So if this is a survey that is specific to a time, so if it is an open house feedback survey, or if it is an education feedback survey, or something that you need to have an end date and time to, where people have to answer by a certain date and time, that's what this line is for. I am not going to put an end date and time in here because I want this to be available always. If there is a max number of responses that you want, so if you only want to gain 100 responses from a certain survey, that's what the max response line is for. Multiple responses from the same PC means if a consumer goes to a library and logs into that PC, do you want a different consumer to be able to log into the same computer and answer the survey? Yes or no? I always leave that as yes. You never know when like a husband and wife are using the same machine. It just makes more sense. Status, active or inactive, and then you set your reminder. So I would like the reminders to come out. Say I want the first reminder after the first day. I want the second reminder after 3 days. And then you set the completion message. So what message goes out to the consumer after they complete the survey? So you might say something like, thank you for taking the time to complete this survey. We are working on hard to better our business through valuable feedback. So I can see here, I've got a spelling error. I click correct it. Then what's really cool is this drop down here that says agent name. I can actually go in and I can say, I would like this to be my agent first name. I want that to go right here. And I would like my cell phone to go underneath it. And I would like my cell phone number. Oh, I just did my cell phone. I'm going to do my Facebook link underneath that. The nice thing about this is as you're updating your profile, you do not then have to go in and edit every survey you've ever created because it's automatically updating it for you when you use these drop downs. And then you click next. You get a review page, and then we go next. Are there any questions so far about how to create a survey and get to this questions detail page? Awesome. So when you get to the question detail page, there are a few things that we need to talk about here. The first is display type. So you have a few options when choosing your type of question. Do you want it to be a single line text? That means the consumer puts in one line of text as an answer. Do you want it to be multiple choice? That means they have an A, B, C, D answer, and they can only choose A, B, C, or D. A multiple choice, multiple answers means you have an A, B, C, D choice, and they can choose A and B, or A and C, or D and C and B. They can choose multiple answers. You can choose a comment or essay box, which means they get a box. They can type out what they would like to say in that box. Do you want a testimonial, which means they are typing out a few lines on how wonderful Chris Nicholson was at the open house? They also can rate, so they can give it a star rating, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star. So those are your choices. When I am doing a survey, I typically default to a multiple choice one answer because it is easy for consumers to participate in, and it's a click and go. If I'm not using multiple choice one answer, I like to use the rating box. Rate this. So if this is my open house survey, I'm going to write a question, and it would say something along the lines of, where did you learn about the open house? And I'm going to choose multiple choice one answer or multiple choice multiple answers. To set my answers down here underneath default values, I'm going to type my answers into this line. And so I might say online agent website. Then I click plus, and then I add another choice. Maybe it's the newspaper. Maybe it's Zillow. Maybe it was signs. And I can add a bunch of choices in here. Annette asked a really good question. Can we have only one choice in what kind of answers? And Annette, the answer to that is yes. However, say that for this question, you have an answer of other. I'm going to make this requirement. Do they have to answer it no? And what you can do is in the next section, so I've got other. We've got signs, Zillow, newspaper, online agent site. Maybe we have online broker site. And I can click add. when I click next, I'm taken to this screen. It says, here is the open house. It's a checkbox. It's not required. There's no validation required. And I would like to add another question. So I'm going to add another question. My next question is going to be, if you answered other to previous question, where did you find out about the open house? I'm going to make that a single line text answer. It's not required. There's no validation rule. And I click next. So you can't have multiple types of answers within one question. However, you can have multiple types of questions within a survey. Does that answer your question, Annette? Yeah. So you might ask a question like, did you enjoy speaking with the host of the open house? And you might make that a rating. And you go through and you continue adding questions until you are done answering questions. A suggestion for best practice that I have found extremely useful is for my last question of the survey, I like to do a, is there any additional feedback? You would like to provide? I make that a comment in essay box. And the reason I do that is if something extraordinary happened at the open house or something horrible happened at the open house, I do want to know about it and I do want to receive feedback. And as hard as it is for all of us to receive feedback, because it's hard, taking criticism is hard, it is valuable if it can help you grow your business. And if you're not asking the question, you're not going to get the answer. Does that make sense to everybody? Perfect. I'm going to come back to your question, Annette. So once you've added all your questions, we're going to select do nothing, I am done, and click next. And what that is going to do is that is going to take you to your main survey edit screen. You see how it slides out from the left-hand side here? We tried to make this really cohesive. So when you're editing a contact, it slides out from the left-hand side. When you're editing a listing, it slides out from the left-hand side. So if you're editing a survey, it slides out from the left-hand side. Then you know it's created and you know what's going on. So I can see here, if I want to move these, I can simply drag and drop these into the order that I would like to have them in. So you can change the orders of the questions as you would like. I can go in, you can edit things. So I can update this page and say open house, page 1, save. I can add questions. Oh shoot, I forgot to add a question that said, did you get enough information about the home? Yes, no, maybe, multiple choice. Also, multiple choice. I like to make sure when I am doing a survey question that I have an strongly agree, agree, disagree, strongly disagree, or a somewhat likely, highly likely, somewhat likely, not at all likely, never. I'd like to avoid that middle of neutral because there are some people who will always just choose neutral, 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 or not applicable, not applicable, not applicable. And the goal is to get feedback. So you can add a question. I can see on the details page, here's my survey details. That was the first screen when we opened it up. On that page as well, once you're in edit mode, you have the option to create a web link or an email link. So if you wanted to put this on your website or on your Facebook, you can actually get the HTML code to insert on your web page. If you just want a quick link, you can get the link here. You also can go to the recipients tab and you can add recipients from your CRM. So I can go in, I can add recipients, I can add by contact type or by individual contacts, and I can add recipients here. As survey results come in, you will see that summary of responses under the summary tab. And let me just open up a live account quickly to show you what that looks like. My surveys got deleted. So it will show you all the questions. It will show you a summary of what they said underneath recipients. As you add recipients, you'll be able to see here they are. If they've responded to your survey, you can resend it. Once they deliver their answers, you can see a summary of their results underneath their actions. So you can see it individually by person who's responded. You can also see a chart of summary responses here. So we've been speaking for just about 27 minutes. I do want to make sure you don't have any questions about survey, either about best practices of creating them or how to structure questions, how to get to that recipients tab. Again, if I close this out, it's under marketing, my surveys, and then I can go in, I can see here's my survey here, and I can edit this and I can see everything about it underneath that surveys. Any questions? If you don't have any questions, please say no in the comment. How you can go in and add surveys to action plans as well, because that's a really cool thing. Perfect. So there is one question, and it is, what are some questions to survey after a closing? Lisa, what I would do is I would start brainstorming what are the pain points of transactions. So was your agent responsive during your transaction? Did you feel your lender provided good service? How would you rank your brokerage before the transaction? Did your ranking of the brokerage change after the transaction? How likely are you to recommend your agent to a friend or family? Is there any other feedback you'd like to provide at this time? Or some of them? As an office admin, Lisa, you're an office admin, right? I should say Lisa Hudson, not Lisa Swanson. Okay, so Lisa, the other thing you could do is you could actually survey your agents in the office, and you could just create one survey question that was, what feedback would you like to receive from clients after a closing, and have it be a single line answer and send it out to all your agents in your office, and then see what all the agents in your office said as well. So yeah, missed the time to send out. So Ken, Right now, there's not a time that says, hey, send this out at this time. So within the survey, you can go in and you can go to the recipients tab and you can add recipients. On the details page, you can get a web link or an email link. And then what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to attach it to an action plan so that it would automatically send out. So that's a perfect segue into what we're going to do next. Thank you. So underneath this tools and preferences, if I go into tools and preferences, I can see my action plans right here. And so if I go into an action plan, you may want to create an action plan based on the fact we just did an open house survey. Let's create an action plan that is based on open house clients, so that when you have someone come into your open house, you have an action plan of how to follow up with those clients. So the first item on that action plan may be send out open house survey. To add that, you click on the plus button next to items, and then we're going to choose send survey. We're going to name this open house survey. I would like it to go out. Perhaps I want it to go out 1 hour after they're added to this plan. I want to send it to the contact or lead, and I would like to use my survey of open house survey. And this is the demo account, so I'm going to find out why my survey didn't show up there. But it will work on your software. So you're going to select your survey from the drop-down, and you're going to click Save. Now, Ken, if I say, hey, I'm in my open houses, I have my open house sign-in page up and ready to go, and people are signing in, then when they come into my contacts and leads, I can see them underneath my leads. The source is open house sign-in, and I can add them to that action plan. So I can say, perfect. Ken says, okay, I had 15 people come in, and I need to just go through and say, I'm going to filter by my favorite contact types, apply. I'm going to go in and I'm going to add them to this action plan. Awesome. I need to add them to my open house clients action plan and click Save. Now what's going to happen is 1 hour after I've added them to that action plan, they're automatically going to get the survey that I just created. Ken, does that answer your question? Perfect. Good times to send out surveys are, in my opinion, within 24 hours of your interaction. So if you're doing an open house survey, you need to do it within 24 hours of your open house. If you're doing a closed transaction survey, it needs to be within 24 hours of the closed transaction. If you're doing a showing feedback, it needs to be within 24 hours of that feedback. The sooner you get the survey out to the event that happens, the more accurate, the more timely, and the more likely you are to get a response. So Annette asked a good question. How can an office admin survey be used on the Agents On website? So if you as an office admin have created a survey, underneath tools and preferences, marketing, they are going to show up underneath my surveys. So they're going to have your surveys. It will show it as an office survey here, and they can go to this web link. This is going to be a lot, so brace yourself here, team. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to get the web link. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this information. On a PC, that is Control-C. On a Mac, it is Command-C. Now, an agent is going to go to their website. They can quickly go there by going to their name and then to website. When they do that, it's going to open up their web page. On their web link, they're going to go down, they're going to log in. Now, if they want to insert this on a page on their website, they would go to Pages. They would select the page or create the page that they wanted to do, and then they can edit the page. When they do that and click Edit, there's this HTML source code editor. So they can go in, click source code, paste, which is Control-C or Control-V or Command-V on a Mac. It will automatically insert the link that says, click here to take the survey. That hyperlinks through then to that survey page where you can answer those survey questions. Let's do one that actually has questions in it. So again, I opened up the survey, I clicked web link, I hit Command-C, I went to my website, I edited, I entered it into the source code, Control-V, okay, it's live. People can click there to see the survey. Is there any additional feedback you'd like to provide? Here are all those questions. Good best practices are short, to the point answers. No more than 10 questions. Finish with an open-ended question that asks the consumer for feedback that was not available for them to provide in one of your questions. And please, please, please proofread your surveys. So here's that summary. When you use it on the website, it is not going to show the recipient. It is only going to show what that person's response was. Are there any other questions today? We're just approaching that 40-minute mark. I know that you all have a lot going on. I know that it's a busy time of year and you're wrapping things up. I want to make sure you get answers to your questions, but I also want to make sure that I'm valuing your time. So the last part of this is always the call to action of when are you going to go in before Friday this week and create a survey for your business, whether it is a listing survey or a transaction survey or an open house survey or a survey for agents within your office on onboarding. What day and time frame are you going to do that? So is it going to be Monday afternoon? Is it going to be Wednesday midday? When are you going to go in and start creating this so that you can use it more effectively? Get out your calendars now. Awesome. Margaret's doing it Thursday morning. Lisa, Ken, Annette. I should say Lisa. There's two Lisas on the call today. Stephanie, Chrissy, Sarah, Chris, Michelle, when are you going to go in and work on things? Awesome. Annette, that's hilarious. Well, I hope you all had a great 40-minute session today. Again, links are at the top of this chat box. I'll just copy those messages quickly and paste. If you're looking for where to find the webinar, repost it, or other resources that we have, this is part of a 5-week series of really digging into the tools of IQ Office and how you can put them together to help build your business over the next 5 weeks. We're super excited to have you. If you can click on that Zoho Showtime, that's where you can find all the upcoming registrations. I hope you have a wonderful day. You're welcome, Chris.